sorry. I don't know where y'all are.
So look,
Hold on, we're gonna talk through this.
Well, hold on. I'm helping you, bro.
Help me out. He's jumping. He's going like forward.
I know. I'm about to break it down for you simply. So you plug in level, and then you see foundational exercise.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So you have a list. You gotta plug in.
That makes sense. It's before that.
What are you talking about before?
You're saying the assessment. So we gotta
So they come in.
Seventh grade.
They come in here and
we assess them. So assessment of the movement or assessment that's involved with the sport depth.
With the
Like
sport
the
depth.
testing benchmarks needed.
Yeah,
for the sport.
testing benchmark. All right, so I took some of the note. I took the note from Tamand, and then I wanted to improve with the exercise identification, and I came up with a couple of different titles or names. We're going to go back through. I'm going to improve the presentation so you can see my thought process with exercise identification, and then at the end we're going to talk about specific exercises per degree is what I'm referring to it. So there's going to be a little bit of contribution towards the end. Weeks has the premier primo notes, but I may ask Big L or Husky T for notes on the back end. So and then you're upset about Legend right now. So going back and refreshing the exercise degree system, and this is going to be the term, exercise degree, because you're earning a degree when you unlock and you get to that next level. So the big thing I want to look at is what are exercise types, and analyzing the top down what those umbrellas are. So we're going to go through those exercise umbrellas. The unlocking of these exercises and the exercise types are going to be dependent upon the sport depth of the athlete. So we've got to remember what the sport depth is and how that athlete fits into the sport depth. Then the levels of the athlete. So when we do the assessment, what level are they at? And that is another level of unlocking movements. And then the time frame of periodization is the third level, and that's going to be based on, or the third unlock, that's going to be based on the level and the competitive season. Where are they at? And then that's going to be where we're moving forward. Now, with this time frame of periodization, if they're a level 1, this doesn't matter. If they're a level 3, level 4, it will matter, which we'll cover. So going back over Dr. B's stuff and analyzing exercise models, okay, exercise identification models or classification models. Dr. B had 4 classification system, or 4 IDs of classification for exercises. Competitive exercise, specific development exercise, specific preparatory exercise, and then general preparatory exercise. Those were how he classified, ID'd movement patterns, and still does. And I think it's great. I have not seen, I don't know, Taman, if you have seen anyone else doing this, like classically along these lines. I haven't personally seen it. I've looked. Last week I looked a little bit in two of the books I'm like going through right now, and no one really has like exercise identification and how that interplays with athletes and actually building out a system. So to review with this, to keep going here, the hierarchy of those exercises were based on what's the movement pattern. So this is from Dr. B. What was the movement pattern? What's the stimulus? Does it replicate the competitive movement in entirety or not? Does it replicate part of the competitive movement in the same physiological system? Okay, and moving forward from that would be, if it replicates the competitive movement in entirety, then it's the competitive movement. Okay, so for example, if you have a shot putter and they're throwing a shot with the technique in the circle, that's a competitive movement. Now, I think part of the downfall of that is, what about a football player? I mean, yeah, you can just identify, okay, they're practicing football. I don't know. Just seems a little odd. Does it replicate part of the competitive movement in the same physiological system? If it does, then it's a specific development exercise, or SDE. And I put here half turn with a dumbbell throw. half turn with a rock in really high weeds like Trevor used to do. Does it simulate the major or stimulate the major muscle groups and physiological systems used in the competitive movement? If yes, then it's an SPE. Okay, so a specific preparatory exercise. If not, then it's a general prep exercise. So I like to think about this as like a side medicine ball throw versus a back squat. So back squat would be the general movement. The side medicine ball would be the specific preparatory exercise. I also think even just doing like plate twists. Plate twists would be another example.
Wait, hold on, going back. Because you had mentioned before, like, the release part. Would that release part be more of the specific development?
I think that's like a gray area discussion with the side med ball throw. Because I think I also think if it's a shot putter, like, because it's not like an actual putting, yeah, that's where I would say for a discus thrower, the side medicine ball might be an SDE. For a shot putter, that might be SPE. That would be my thought,
And
Trevor.
I just remembered you were saying something about the difference between holding something like the twist and then releasing. That could be like the difference.
Yeah, and even like the plate twist being the SPE clearly. Yeah.
You know, like, what would some examples be for like, you know, football or like other field sports for like the SDE and SPE?
I think that's the hard part. So like the
It'd be like just locomotive stuff.
Yeah, the SPE in my mind could be like a plyometric series.
The SPE.
The SDE would be the SDE would be the like let's say a 5-10-5 or I would even argue that the 5-10-5 or a 3-cone or a plyometric would be SPE, and then the SDE would be like, I don't know, like an actual drill that you do in practice. Yeah. But, you know, moving off of this, I think that's where I have issues with Dr. B's identification in the Western sense, in the sense of like, okay, how are we really understanding all of these? I think there's a very clear division in the West of weight room versus field. And some people will complain, and I think it could be bridged a little better than it is. But I think there should be, like, when I'm thinking through what I do with South Dakota State, I'm thinking, what are they doing in wrestling? And then I control what we do in the weight room through our identification model, which we'll go into. So I wanted to pitch that as like, Dr. B's model is the only model I'm really familiar with. I've never seen somebody else's model. And then I'm trying to improve his model based off of what we do in training. You know, I think that, you know, that's where I want to go forward. So foundational exercises, and I'm terming this the exercise degree system. Okay, so like identifying exercises through these different degrees. And the questions that we'll bring up in our system would be, how well do they transfer to movements seen in the sport? So does the exercise improve performance, okay, relative to the sport, but may not mimic the competitive action? So actually, let's use Ariana's single leg squat. We know that that's going to improve her running and her jumping. So that's important for us. That's basically as far as we go. How well do they correlate to the energy used in the sport? So that's also of importance, is the duration, the fiber recruitment. How well do they improve specific joint angles used in the sport, which leads later into when we're getting closer to peaking. How strong is the association with movements in athletes that are elite in that specific sport? Meaning, if someone is really good at football, are there specific exercises that individual is good at? And that's a correlation. That's an association. And this is where, are there athletes within the system that have gotten better at movements and subsequently shown to improve their performance? Correlation and causation there. And so the big thing here that we talked about last week was the exercise umbrellas. Okay, and I want us to think through exercise umbrellas are here, okay? Exercise degrees are over here. You follow me, Taman? So this is the exercise umbrella. Technical coordination down. These are the degrees of the umbrellas.
I get it, but
Let me move on this.
okay.
So thinking through this, we would have, if you have, let me move through a couple slides, and it'll hopefully some cobwebs come out of the dome. So if we have technical coordination, cleans, weightlifting movements, right? Absolute strength, squats, presses, pulls, hypertrophy movements, bodybuilding, dynamic trunk control. This could be Taman's favorite Payloft press, maybe his like quarter squat thing with while he's holding the Payloft press. But then also, if we're doing some multi-joint movement, like I even would argue like a plyometric where you pause with a plate. Plyometrics without weight, speed, and endurance. So those are the umbrellas. So everything lives under those umbrellas. Dumbbell drop banded press with hip flexion. That would be a DTC movement. Contralateral, yeah. Trevor?
Would you add like, mobility as like another umbrella, or would that?
I think I'm addressing mobility as like just forms of recovery or forms of like actual preparation for training.
And then, some exercise that come to mind would be like external rotations, like some of those like niche accessory things, like.
So I would fit them into hypertrophy, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. I think for the most part, I would just have them as an accessory / hypertrophy movement, and there would just be a period that we would move them out based off the level that they're in, based off of the degree of movements that they're using.
So are you officially changing the word level for degree now?
No, so the level in regards to periodization is stemming from when we test. So we test somebody and we see that they're, let's say, high schoolers, that's level 2. When they test and they have benchmarks that they're achieving, that would be like a collegiate level, that's level 3 for us. For the exercise, these 3 are the degrees. So hang on, let me get back on this one, because this is where I think this hopefully so if we're looking through like in this sense, okay, back to the slide here. Okay, so think through exercise umbrellas, Taman. Now the exercise degrees. So the degrees, competitive exercise is a sport. When we're writing training, I'm not really concerned about this outside of the fact that we know what sport depth they're in. We know what sport they're working towards. We know what level they're going to be at based off their assessments. That's like our guiding North Star. But what really matters is identifying the foundational degree of exercise, the advanced degrees, and then the peak degrees. So this is where we're going to see different movements based off of where they're at in their periodization model and where they're at with their assessment. So think through Foundational exercise, okay, would be like the basics of each sport depth, okay? And think about what I'm giving you right now is the what. This is the what, and then we're gonna get into the how shortly. But foundational exercise would be basics of each sport depth. Advanced exercises would be partials, specific power movements like a power clean, power snatch, and more advanced reps and sets. So foundational exercises would be a standard like 4 sets of 4 clean. That movement might look like 1 box power clean, 5 singles with 2 triples. Okay, so they're a little bit more advanced in that sense. The peak exercises would be partial exercises that are more specific, maybe some reflexive work, some sport-specific accessories, and advanced reps and set tactics. So this could be, and this would be depending upon the time of year, but this would be, maybe we do some type of post-activation potentiation. Maybe we do the side medicine ball throw or something, or something like a shot swing or something. And then partial exercises that are more specific, let's say hip power snatch with VBT. And you can't, we're going to try and move that at 2.2 meters per second because we're leading into a peak. But to unlock that level, they've got to have, to unlock these exercise degrees, they've got to be at a certain level.
I just wanted to clarify that at first I was thinking that peak was referring to like your peak in your periodization, but it seems like it's more like this is like a more just really advanced level of
Yeah.
athlete.
Yeah. Yes.
Or like you're saying, like unlocking to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's a bad choice of terminology.
Elite.
Yeah, elite exercise, something like that. Okay. So I want to go through this before we get into more specific work because I like to think about these questions a lot. And I actually, Weeks would relate these questions to the discussion of Jeff's technique. Like, does the athlete, like in Jeff's case, does he have to do this technique to throw farther? Do the reps with this technique, let's say he takes 1,000 reps with this new technique versus 1,000 reps with his old technique, which one will he throw farther with? How long will it take to see these things? And I think that we should be thinking those questions through in the gym. That is related to the what was the exercise I was making fun of you guys for last week? The dumbbell or the kneeling landmine press. Wasn't that the one?
Yeah, single knee down.
Yeah, landmine press. Okay, does the athlete have to do a variation or a partial or a unique movement? Like, do they, shut up, Taman. Do they actually have to do this? Like, do we need, for them to grow and become better athletes, do they have to do it? If they get better at the foundational movements, will there still be a continued transfer? Okay? A good example there, Ariana, and I'm going to piece this in here. Is there a comprehended point of diminishing returns? Ariana just single leg squat 225 for a triple. Okay? Let's say that I would assume that the point of diminishing returns for her would probably be like 315 for a set of 3 on each leg. I don't really think she would have to do much more than that. And that might even be a little bit high. So it's like, we know that there might be a continued point of transfer to 275, 300, and then there's probably a point of diminishing returns at 315. Yo, DJ's listening to this right now, and he's going to put 315 on Ariana's back. So these are like questions that I think we need to be posing to ourselves internally while we're coaching somebody. Like going through it and these are like, when do we really need to do something that is more Instagram-ish?
So this is kind of like the reel back from trying to hop on a trend.
Yes, exactly. Now, to be fair, I do think there's still an okay point, even when you would answer all these and it jives with the system to be like, we're still doing an Instagram style exercise just to appease the goldfish, the middle school kid or whoever, maybe even us, me, drop contralateral banded presses. Okay, so now, that's the background. That's the background of what we just went over. Now, specifics, foundational basics here, okay, of the exercise umbrella. So, exercise umbrella, exercise degree. So, when we think about this, we go, technical coordination is the umbrella, and that would be if they test and they're in that foundational degree, clean, snatch, jerks. Like, no variation, simple.
From the floor, full clean.
Yeah. To be fair, too, I think you could throw powers in there for a learning process as well. Absolute strength, just a squat, a front squat, a bench press, a pull. DTC work, so like maybe overhead walking lunges or overhead single leg squat, rotational multi-joint, lunge, maybe a little twist, plyometrics, hops, pogo hops, okay, jumps, bounds, something simple. Speed work, I think basic start work, a lot of mechanic work here, legend, simple sprints, nothing crazy, like real basic, let's just get you to move. Let me finish this and then endurance would be, these are like the basics, so just go out and run for 60 minutes. Let's do Tabata. It'd be a high intensity interval of a simple endurance there. Threshold, 30 minutes, hold the tempo at this rate, and real simple aspect. Trevor?
How do you see like simple core exercises, like
So that's where I would put them in with the hypertrophy movements, which aren't on this,
okay.
but I would put them in there.
So that's helpful because it's like a distinction between like dynamic trunk control is more of a specific movement pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Hypertrophy is just
Isolating the core.
isolated, but it's isolated to the core.
Yeah. Okay, so this is sort of like an extension of like the best movements that transfer in the foundational area, okay? Clean, snatch, single leg squat, front squat, and this is gonna be typically found sport depth 1 to sport depth 4. I would even argue sport depth 5 would even, at a foundational level, at basic level athlete, they would find a benefit from this, all sport depths. Clean, snatch, single leg squat means, I could make the argument, there's research that distance runners who improve the rear leg elevated split squat, single leg squat, or back squat have better running efficiency, meaning they have a better cadence per stride length per mile. Okay, front squat, bench press, obviously, sport depth 5 probably wouldn't need a bench press. But then plyometrics, let's say we're looking at vertical jump, broad jump, speed stuff, we're looking at 40-yard dash, shuttle times, different distance shuttle times. And then a 5K time, a 60-minute test, fan bike 30 for 30 tests, so 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 5 minutes. Okay, so this would be the advanced degree, okay, with under each umbrella. So now you're looking at a hang clean. So this is a progression from the foundational. A hang clean, a one box snatch, a one box clean. The absolute strength, you could put in pauses. You can put in slow eccentric. You could change the tempo. I would argue, one thing I wanted to bring up, I would argue with dumbbell bench in a foundational, with the foundational degrees, I think with young kids, you can use pauses to just force them to be a little bit tighter. Hypertrophy work, here you have heavier drop sets and accessories. So let's say you're doing, let's say we have football guys and they're starting to get into like, someone like Nick in high school was clearly a level 3. He unlocks the advanced exercises. So then we could do preacher curls, 3 sets of 7 heavy, and then 1 set of 30 after that, 3 sets of 7. So that's where you'd see some of the heavier drop sets and accessories. Trunk control work, this is where you bring in, the drop dumbbell snatch to a box, plate jumps with a pause. Plyometrics here, you start to get more complex, let's say dumbbell jump, bound, hurdle hop. Sport-specific patterns as well. Think about like Jan jump series or a hide-in jump. That's where a hide-in jump, I think, is a good example for somebody like a skater or a running back. Speed stuff, you get into resisted sprints, wicket drills. And then endurance, you might have like distance tempos. So a distance tempo would be, let's say you want to run 1 minute at a 5:30 pace, rest for 45 seconds, repeat that for 10 sets. That would be like a tempo run there. The maffetone here would be 8 by 800 meters, and you try and hit the same target every single rep. Those are pretty advanced. Yeah. Yeah, a lot. And they say that if you can get 10 sets of that at like, let's say 3 minutes, that you should be able to run a 3-hour marathon. It's like a loose predictor. Yeah. Trevor?
For technical coordination, you would do like, more variations as like progressions, but the difference here be if you're like going for like higher load.
Yeah.
Like you won't go high load with those variations if you're at more of a foundational level.
Yeah. And I would,
Potentially use those variations.
I'll get into this a little bit later, but I still think I honestly think that I'm starting to believe that we don't, there's a lot of athletes that really don't need to do anything outside of clean, a snatch if they can snatch, a front squat, a back squat, a single leg squat, a bench press, a pull up,
You're saying just don't
just do that. Literally just do that. What's up, guys? Our podcast and our channel are sponsored by our own strength training app, Peak Strength. The entire focus of Peak Strength is to provide you guys with the absolute best sports performance app that you could ever imagine. We build out the programs on the back end. We take in all of these different decisions that we learned here on site at Garage Strength so that we can then apply it to you so you can improve your training. So if you guys want to improve your overall sports performance, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength. You'll get a free week of training, and then you can start getting on those gains, get those reps done so that you can become a champion. Now, let's get back to the video. Peace. Yeah, literally give me 5,000 reps of all those exercises. I was thinking about this with Sebastian. You want to know how I would train Sebastian? I'd make him front squat every single day that he comes in, and I'd make him clean every single day that he comes in. And sometimes I'd have him do single leg squat, but he would do that every single day until he cleans 100 kilos. And I guarantee you, that kid doing that system is better than doing Instagram. Unless they're watching our Instagram channel.
I think that's the question I have then is where is they are athletes, so they have to jump, they have to run.
I think,
So
that would be where we would go back and we'd be like, all right, if he's coming in, let's say he comes in 4 days a week.
Yeah.
He still could do shuttle, 40, maybe some resisted sprints, depending. I don't think he has to do resistant sprints, but it would be beneficial. It wouldn't hurt him, and it would be something from a business side that would help mentally. And he'd still be doing jumps.
Well, yeah. I think the other question too is you're looking at somebody who's at a certain I'm saying the word level, but the volume conversation for like someone at that level is kind of, you're saying, contracting or expanding in volume sense, but the exercise library that you pick from is contracting.
Yes, that's it right there.
So it's like volume.
Shrink the exercise
But then
library.
it's just like, yo, take out, make it.
This kid's 13.
Yeah.
He's a solid athlete. Like, we don't know, like, is he a Nick Singleton? Like, probably not, but he's a good athlete, clearly. He moves well. He could get strong. And the other wild part, I actually remember Pelican talking about this guy, Andre Benoit, who went to the Olympics like 3 times, and his coach was named Pierre Waugh. Pierre Waugh also was the strength coach for Georges St-Pierre. And he said Pierre Waugh got him to 2 Olympics, and they only did 9 movements for 9 years, 9 exercises. And it was like snatch, clean, strict press, military press, back squat, front squat, clean pull, and like bench. That was all he did for 9 years. So like, he was a bobsledder. Yeah, and he cleaned like 170. And then he would do his ice work, like pushing and stuff like that. Now, and he medaled at the Olympics. Like, I know it's bobsledding, but still, he wasn't a total schlub. The argument though is like, if we have those, and my goal would be maybe not exactly today, but sometime in the near future, we identify that exercise library for foundationals is literally contracted to 30 exercises. Dude, that's still a lot of movements. So, and I think that's my, my shift was like super here, but then like almost back to the roots of things, looking through it, and then also, working, thinking back to the bets that you guys have, who can clean 100 kilos the fastest. It's like, dude, I know, as a weightlifting coach, I know exactly what I would do to get somebody to clean a specific weight the absolute fastest. I know 100% what I would do. I wouldn't spend any other time doing anything else because I'm under the gun. Like, and I know John Bros used to say this stuff. John Bros would say like, okay, if somebody held a gun to your head and they said, you have to back squat 50 kilos more in the next, 9 days. What are you going to do? You're not going to back squat every single day? Of course you're going to back squat every single day. They're holding a gun to your head. Like, and I know that's a wild thought experiment, but do it. Do it. What would I do? We'll talk about that later. Okay, so this would be like examples of that peak level here. I wanted to think about like repeat pulls, powers, heavy 2 boxes. Absolute strength would be like unbrokens, time, pad benches. Now, I was thinking about weeks over here with the pad benches. This is where, okay, you have a high school kid, they're a level 2. Do they really need to do a peak exercise like a pad bench? And I'm like, not really. Like, these guys, I would argue, in high school, probably will throw the same. If we had, like, let's use Maddox. Maddox doesn't pad bench, Maddox does pad bench. My personal argument would be he would throw almost the exact same. But if Maddox, and this is where I did want to make some bending, is that in this case, in the Maddox example, Weeks is like, I don't care what you say, I want to do a pad bench because they feel faster and they like it. Go ahead, it's not going to be detrimental. Now, if I'm looking at it and he's like pad benching 405 with reverse bands and chains and doing like some crazy shit, I'm gonna be like, yo, you're not gonna do that. But in this case, I think it's fine. Now,
that's something that you should highlight in here because there's been like 2 points now where it's like, all right, sometimes as a coach or the athlete, like you might want to do like the dumb exercise to appease. So there's a positive
appeasement can be
and there's also like, hey, like might not be the time to do pad, but if they're getting ready for a meet and it gives them confidence, or it's one of those things where they enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Can you write that in the notes, like just like an appeasement, like an adaptation of appeasement almost? I don't know if that would be the best way to put it.
Not necessarily adaptation,
but it's like it's basically acknowledging like, dude, this, and I think, yeah, it's the that's actually it. There, it would be the cultural buy-in.
It's kind of like if you can pull some exercises from the higher level every now and then. It's kind of like a dessert.
Yes.
Like, in moderation.
Yeah.
But it's okay just to kind of spice things up a little bit.
But for them to do the dumbbell drop with a contralateral banded press in a hip flex position, they've got to be on the peak level. So,
right, like you said, that's still like part of the scheme you got to follow.
now, with that being said, the filter is a pad bench going to be detrimental to Maddox in this example? No, it's not going to be. Is a pad bench with reverse bands and chains and all this bullshit at 480? Don't do that. That's going to be detrimental. I believe that. But in that case, if it passes the filter of, is this going to be detrimental if we do this? No, it's not. So it's going to be okay. That's the dessert. It's all right to do something like that. And honestly, what would be interesting as a thought experiment here is you take Maddox and you have him do, let's say you hook up the VBT and he does pad bench. Let's say you test 225. Boom, boom, you do a double. And his VBT is, his average velocity is like 0.8. Okay, just throwing out theoretical here. You put 315 on, he does pad bench for 2 sets of 3, and then you go back to 225, you hook up the VBT, he does a double, and now his average velocity is 1 meter per second. That's an example of like, that wasn't detrimental, and he sees that speed increase even after doing that heavier load, and that could be something that really helps him moving forward. You know, does it really create some crazy adaptation that gets him to throw 65 feet? Like, probably not, but I mean, him throwing 65 feet, anybody throwing 65 feet is deep. Okay, so this would be unbroken time pad benches. This is where I do think also the like post-activation potentiation, I think this could be in hypertrophy and absolute strength work, DTC work, so like reflexive to the sport. I was thinking here like almost like these two would get mixed together for peak, so you could do like a Lynch series jump, contrast stuff where you go like a drop dumbbell snatch to a box and then you do single leg bounds. So you're almost putting these together, very sport specific stuff. Peaking series, so for like you guys, hurdle hops for peaking. And then I have wickets in here still because I think they are pretty advanced. And then maybe some over speed stuff, that's where the peak stuff would come into play. And then specific peaking strength work, so some type of single leg work or some type of trap bar work. I've seen 1,500 and 5K guys talk about that a little bit. I actually just read an article on Safan Hassan, talking about some stuff she did in the weight room before the Olympics this year and how that helped her actually handle all the volume. You know, this system would be like a true double threshold. That's not anything we really need to get into there. Okay. So now I want to go from that into just a review over the volume model. And this is where athletes have different volume modeling based on the level of experience and ability based off of their tests. So when we assess them, and then that gets us into the sport depths. The levels are based on their assessment. And then this also leads to the determination of movements being used. So that establishes this athlete's a level 1. When they're a level 1, they stay within foundational exercises with just a true linear periodization model. When an athlete gets assessed and they become a level 3, Now they unlock advanced exercises, and they start to use much more of the parabolic periodization model.
Is it a one-to-one, like levels 1 and 2 are foundational, level 3 is advanced?
Level 3,
Or how do you kind of?
so level 3 and 4 would be using advanced and peak exercises or elite exercises.
And so then what determines kind of the jump from kind of unlocking the peak exercises?
I would say it's going from level 2 to level 3.
Okay.
Just
So
on,
they're
they're
kind of,
kind of together.
okay.
Yeah, I think in most cases, once an athlete achieves that level 3 benchmark, you could start to bring in the argument I would make. Actually, this is a good argument with Jefta. Is I did a athlete review of him. So let's say he is a level 3 based off of his strength numbers, but if he wants to throw 20 meters, he has to be a level 4. Like, he has to do that. He has to bench 200 kilos. He's going to have to back squat 300, like 270 to 300. Now, he's a level 3, so he can do some of the more advanced exercises, but that could pull away from him increasing those general strength gains that he needs to achieve. So I would use those advanced exercises maybe if he's leading into a big meet, but most of the year, I'm still just going to be hammering him with volume on the traditional movements that are found in the foundational level.
Well, and that would happen with any athlete, wouldn't it?
Depending on their sport depth.
That you maintain the foundational exercises, like no matter how good you are.
Yeah, but I would say a level 3 who's a soccer player would have a little bit more advanced work or peak exercises.
Right, yeah, there'll be more, but it's not like you eliminate the foundation.
Yeah, that's true. I would not eliminate those, for sure.
Okay.
Taman?
I guess that was, they're not losing the foundational stuff. Like, most of the year you're doing that.
Yeah.
And then when you just get closer to the season, you just back off and do the other
Yeah.
advanced stuff.
Right. Yeah, so now this goes into sort of what Trevor was just asking, is like level 1 from the test, from the assessments, gets the foundational movements, okay? So remember, the foundational degree determines the type of movements that are being done under the exercise umbrella.
See that again?
The exercise degree, so think about the exercise degree is foundational. So the assessment, the level of the athlete, brings us over to where's their foundational, where are they at with the exercise degree? Are they foundational, are they advanced, or are they peak? Okay, and if they're a level 1, that shows us that they're going to do foundational movements. And then when you go and you're writing your plan based off your sport depth, so you're writing a split or an actual workout based off the sport depth, you are now limited because you're at level 1 and your foundational exercises. So then per umbrella, you're limited on your exercise selection. So that's the whole goal, is that I want to establish with everybody here, sport depths, foundational exercise umbrellas, these are the only movements available to choose from on the menu.
Okay, all that makes sense. We're jumping ahead. Let's back up.
What you just said.
You're jumping way too ahead. I didn't start from the top. I'm sorry. I don't know where y'all are.
So
at.
look,
I'm
think of it like
Hold on, we're gonna talk through this.
well, hold on. I'm helping you, bro.
Help me out.
Like a plug-in, plug and play. The umbrellas.
I see that.
Okay, technical
But
coordination.
he's jumping. He's going like forward.
I know. I'm about to break it down for you simple. So the umbrella is like technical coordination down to like
Yes.
the endurance.
That's easy.
That just stays here, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it.
All right. Yeah. Look, no, that's you laughing, but that's gonna be on
that's
peak
good.
strength.
That's what I want.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to talk.
So you plug in level 1.
Yes, and then you have
And then you see
foundational
foundational exercise.
Yeah.
Ooh,
assessment.
okay, so you have a list. You gotta plug in. You only have level 1 foundational exercises
Yeah.
to pull from.
That makes sense. It's before that.
What are you talking
What's
about before?
You're saying the assessment. So we gotta
So they come
random
in.
seventh grade.
They come in here and
we assess them.
We
do this
know that they're
basic-
cleaning the bar. Like they can only clean the bar
So assessment of the movements or assessment that's involved with the sport depth,
with the
like
sport
the
depth.
testing benchmarks needed
Yes,
Okay,
for the sport.
testing benchmarks.
I see.
So
what-
we know they play soccer.
Correct. So there's
So
sport
we're
depth
gonna
4.
sport depth 4. So we're gonna test them with the sport depth 4 testing.
Correct.
Those assessments, what we get from that is
Help
gonna
us determine the level
the
that they're at.
levels.
Yes.
Okay, the levels will then bring us back to the umbrella. Well,
Yes.
the umbrella is just the basics.
Yeah.
That's just
It brings us.
TC,
It brings us to the exercise
the
degree that they're
exercise.
at.
So that doesn't change.
Think about
The
they're in
umbrella doesn't
kindergarten.
change.
Foundationals is like a kindergarten degree.
I get that. You kept saying the umbrella goes back to technical training. I don't care about that.
Okay,
That doesn't matter.
okay.
That doesn't change because that's going to be in the workout regardless.
Yeah.
What matters is we assess them based off their
Yeah, but I
sport.
want you to think about it changing because when you're writing programs, it does change.
It changes, yeah, but we're not.
But in
the
program
order
layout,
of
it
the
shouldn't
layout
change.
is not.
Okay,
changing.
that's fair.
That's where I'm getting confused. To you, we go back to umbrella. I'm like, why is that being brought? That
That's
doesn't
good.
matter.
Okay.
We have levels, and then we have each level goes to foundational, advanced, and elite or peak,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's it.
Yes.
And so it's umbrellas here.
Yep.
Then you have levels.
Yep.
Then you have the
Well,
certain exercises.
You could argue you have levels here. It depends on how you think.
Okay.
You know, Andrew's a linear thinker, so he's going to think this way. I'm a shitstorm thinker, so I'm thinking like this.
Yeah.
Hold on. So the assessment is strictly the levels.
The assessments,
The
so when they
assessment
come in,
puts them in the level,
yes,
and that's it.
yeah, and then the level
Once you're in the level,
guides us on the type of exercise degree that they have. So
Okay.
foundational, advanced, or
the
peak.
gray area, what you're saying, where you're saying it could be advanced, peak, that's like more level 3.
Yes, and 4.
Potentially 4.
Yep.
Because there's athletes who are in the
And
between.
my whole thesis
Okay. is
is that we do too much 3 and 4 training with kindergartners.
Okay. Okay.
This all makes more sense.
Can you be in a different level in different areas?
I think you could be if you're a multi-sport athlete.
But like let's say
Oh, you're saying
like
if-
me, like take
Yes,
me.
because you
my
would be-
bench is like here,
But that
my
would go back-
squat is like under Ariana's, like
Yes. Well, so there would be 2 discussions there because one thing you would say is like, all right, well, you're a high level for a bench press, terrible level for endurance, right? So like, but that doesn't matter based off the sport depth.
But
Now,
back squat does
now
matter.
for back squat, then what we can do there is we say, dude, this athlete, they're a level 4 for, you know, and that's common actually with throwers or a weightlifter. Think about a hammer thrower. Hammer throwers, Dr. B is a perfect example. He always said he could power clean 140 when he was 15 and he could back squat like 250, but he would bench press 85 kilos. So they looked at that and they're like, okay, he's a hammer thrower. He's not going to be a shot putter or discus thrower. So that's how he got into hammer throwing. Now, in the case of a thrower or let's say a football player, then we would treat that separately where we're like, okay, this athlete's bench is huge, but his squat, Swole Kyle might be a good example. His jumps are probably horrible. So if he's in high school, we got to give him just simple jumps to get him.
So I could like unlock like kind of like the bench tree.
Yes, but
the
not.
jumps tree is I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, you're too dumb for that. In that case.
Now, would you ever like then not only restrict the exercises for a very weak area, but also increase like the percentage of training
Yes.
that you're doing in that area?
Yes. So that's a great example of with South Dakota State. So there's two guys last year, Clay Carlson and then Tanner Jordan. Tanner Jordan's back this year. Tanner Jordan's the guy that Cody was like, he walks with two left feet. This dude can't chew gum and run at the same time. Like, he's just so uncoordinated. But he's scrappy. He'll do anything. His endurance is off the chart. Okay, so he's only going to do 10% of the endurance everybody else is doing. But he's going to do an extra athlete day. He's going to do more jumps. And he's even going to do jumps before wrestling practice. And then he went on in All-American. And he was ranked like 16th. And he got 8th. Now, same with Clay. It was the exact same scenario with Clay, is that he felt like he was getting weaker. So we did a little bit, because he was cutting, but we did a little bit more squatting and a little bit more jumping in that case, because his endurance was so good. Now, another example, like actually Gwiz falls into that scenario as well. And I think that becomes very prevalent when you have a sport like wrestling and probably even football. So, going through this, you've got the athlete executes foundational movements almost entirely. Who am I going to use in this example, Taman? Who's the individual specific person?
Who we're going to use in that example? Drake Hoffman.
That's a good one. He's another one that I think could just be squatting all day.
Yeah.
And you'd see huge improvement. But I would argue in this case, Loveland is the perfect example. For me, like, she comes in, dude, I don't even tell her, I wanted to write her a program. She just comes in and I'll be in the back and come up, and she's got her shoes on and she's already at 45 kilos snatching. All she's doing is snatching, cleaning, squatting, front squatting, single leg squatting, benching, and trying to do pull-ups. That's all she does. And it's like, until she gets to a point of like, hey, maybe, once she cleans 100 kilos, then maybe that's where we'll start to change things.
All right. Now,
When she's 13.
Do you need to hit an age and an assessment level?
I think it can be beneficial to look at it age-wise. I think, somebody, like, in my belief with Loveland is like, why wouldn't I not just try and push her with those minimal exercises as long as I can? Till she's 16, and then it's like, okay, now we change something. One day there was boxes on the platform and she went off the box like one time and had no idea what to do. So in my mind, I'm like, why don't I wait till she's like 15? And then that could be an extra adaptation when she's 15 that we don't have to worry about right now. It buys time. I look at this stuff like that. I look at it the way that powerlifters look at steroids. They wait till they're like 26, 27 to start taking steroids, because then it has this super potent impact on them versus if they took it earlier. And that's the way, I know it's a weird way, but that's the way I look at the variations. So to answer Trevor's question, yeah.
Question. So I'm training Mora and I have her clean off the boxes.
I think that's okay because she's shorter.
Yeah, I was supposed to say,
and like,
so she's working with the littler weights.
Yeah.
Would that be fine?
I think that's fine.
We're not advancing anything. It's
Yeah.
just,
I think in that case,
I have to raise it so
she might have like the greens on the bar or something. Like, I think that's fine.
That might be a good thing to put in, because it could be confusing. Like, okay, say you have I'm thinking like a basketball player. I'm thinking like Cade.
Yeah.
He's a lacrosse player, but he's like a basketball style athlete, super long, very weak. So like a one box clean
Is
or high hang.
if someone's out of that range, and honestly, in that case, you get a kid who's 6'4", 6'5",
so like
having them back squat, honestly, I would be like, probably almost always front squat to a box, maybe back squat to a box
so like
if they're super tall.
there should be something where it's like it addresses
If this, then this happens over
like
here.
height.
What's the exceptions to the rule?
Yeah, exceptions to the rule, like
Yeah.
okay, age and exceptional strength. You should, extend time periods, even though you get extended.
Yeah, I think that's
for like someone like Loveland, and then for height, length. Here are some better adaptations for that scenario.
Yeah, I think that's
Because like I'm thinking about like a whole
Yeah.
like, strength and conditioning coach could have a whole team of basketball players,
and then it's going to change.
and it's gonna change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay, so level 2, foundational movements, and they have hypertrophy and accessories here. Level 3,
What's the difference there? Like, is that saying that level 1 doesn't have hypertrophy?
I don't think it's as important.
Okay.
I think it's fine for you guys to do them, but I don't think it's as important to do it.
So you would do for like
Because
for hypertrophy exercises to get the hypertrophy adaptation, you would do high reps of like absolute strength movements.
yes, yeah, that's the whole thing is like here, level 1, I'm going to have somebody do 5 sets of 12 bench. Why do I need to do hypertrophy work?
So you telling me you're not gonna make a 12-year-old dumbbell curl for 100 reps? So they
I'm still probably going to do it. I'm saying Loveland's not doing that. And she...
Dessert. It's dessert.
Yeah, it's dessert.
I
Okay.
think that's my.
So you're speaking more of like the accessory,
Yeah.
because with the absolute strength, level 1s are getting 10 by 10.
Yes.
That has a hypertrophy aspect to it,
Yes.
but not the. I'm still gonna make the kids do homers.
That's fine.
Like that's just part of it.
Yeah.
That goes back to like the.
That's just the little.
You're
that's
doing
the-
homers and miracle grows for 17
Yeah,
reps. I don't
that's
care.
the ingredient in the recipe that might not make sense, but it's always in there.
Yeah, like. It doesn't make sense, but there's got to be a component of like you got to grow up. You got to learn to push yourself.
That's the back
Like,
squat. You're telling me, like,
They can
you
dial
still
that.
haven't grown up with your back squat. That's the clean. That's the clean. Yeah, what are you going to say now?
Yeah, because I skipped when we started doing those advanced bullshit peak exercises. Got to go back.
Let me get through this.
Back to the essence.
Athlete executes foundational movements with hypertrophy here.
Right before.
Advanced exercise degree and the peak exercise degree. And then the same thing here with level 4 would be hypertrophy work, added advanced exercises, and the peak exercises. Level 3 and 4 are going to be very similar.
If they're good at their sport but they can't lift, do they get to move up the level?
If they're good at their sport but they can't lift, no, why? They don't need it.
But what if they have?
They just need to get better at their lifting.
But what if they're really high minute and they don't have time to do any of that stuff?
What if they're really high what?
Like high, like they're playing all like. I got like a star basketball player. Ruben Rodriguez comes in.
Yeah.
Can't lift, but he's gonna give you 30 a night.
So he just does 3 doubles clean and 2 sets of 5 back squats and then some trap bars, deadlifts like Steph Curry.
All right.
That's what I would do.
Just don't surrender.
Steph Curry did trap bar deads at like 450 and RDLs with like 315.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that in there.
He is strong.
I have one more question that I gotta go. With the like, why separate the advanced and the peak exercises?
Let me think about that. That's
Okay.
a
Yeah,
good question.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that it might make it easier to. I would just say I think there's another level of peak exercises.
Yeah, so if there's maybe just like identifying at what point
Maybe it's
you start considering those exercises instead of the advanced one, or
and I think then so in that case I would use it would be based off time of year and percentage of each one based off their level. Like if you have a level 3, we might do more foundationals
you
early.
still unlock them, but the amount of them could
Yeah. So the simplicity would be you establish the sport depth, you identify the foundational exercises per sport depth, okay? You look at the level of the athlete within the sport depth, so we're testing them and we find the level. Then the level is established. Now does the athlete require advanced or peak exercises? And then we determine the time of year for all this.
Why not switch 2 and 3?
Identify the exercises per sport depth versus, so you're saying assess the level of the athlete
Why?
within the sport depth. I think this one is actually just like something we should be doing immediately. Sport depth 4, soccer. Sport depth 4, these exercises. So like,
I had a question about that last time. Like, sport, like if you're level 1, why does the sport depth not like the exercises should matter.
I think the
I
exercise
mean,
is
level 1 across the board, it's all foundational exercises anyway.
to
Regardless
a point. To a point, I would say like 85% of the point, yes.
what is it?
But I would say a difference would be someone who's a swimmer who comes in, they would be more heavily focused on still increasing their squats, their front squat, their cleans, stuff like that, jumps, but more pulls than presses. There still is a play there.
Okay. So it's just a slight shift, but there really is not a difference.
Right. It's like a 15 to 20% change, but then that grows as they get more advanced.
Advanced based off of the benchmarks.
Yeah, based off the benchmarks. So like identifying the key exercises per the sport depth should be something that we're living with. And then when we have the level, okay, we know the sport depth they're in, we know which level they're at, which then unlocks these groups of exercises. So really, and we maybe write this down again, or if you haven't, we need to establish groups of exercises per umbrella based on the degree, so that we have a very clear depot to pull from.
What's the degree again?
The degree would be advanced or peak or, yeah. So we need to create a very clear depot of exercises under each umbrella that is based on the degree, and that would be foundational, advanced, peak/elite.
You changed ID to degree.
Mm-hmm. So this is also I wanted to go into now, taking this, okay, so this would be advanced to peak or advanced to elite, whatever we want to term here. And we're going to say, okay, so this is the pretend now we have a college football team or a college wrestling team, whatever. So we look at the preparation period, okay? So it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks, 4-week blocks. And here's where I needed to do a better job. On the preparation period, this is going to be heavily weighted to foundational exercises. Here. Transition period, okay? So 1 to 2 4-week blocks, foundational and advanced movements. And then when we get into like the athletic period, we're going to see 3 to 4 4-week blocks, and this would be where we see more advanced and peak movements here. Okay, and then these are the phases of the periodization that we would be following. So exposure phase, comprehension phase, these can be repeated. Then we would get the transition periods are comprehension and ascension, and then the athletic periods, we're using this. Ascension, summit, realization there.
With the lower levels, will they ever really hit summit and realization?
I think a level 1 athlete they're just making progress. Like using Loveland as an example, it's just like, yo, we're just training until, I think for her, 9th grade, we might start to dig into that stuff. I think for a lot of athletes, that might not happen until like junior, senior year.
Like, I'm thinking about like the group that I have now, where it's like, I have the kids that I've been training for a while, and we'll go through this model, but then I got the new kids, it's like,
They just gotta lift.
yeah, I'm just letting you lift.
Yeah, they just gotta go.
We're cleaning, we're squatting more, like I'll give them like 5-6 sets of like squats or like bench.
That's all they need. Dude, that's the one thing I'd say I go back to DJ with Loveland, is he's the one time we were talking about her and he was like, dude, she just needs reps. Tell me if she gets 5,000 reps of clean or 5,000 reps of snatch and squats and front squats. Like, don't even worry about the phases because of her level. Just get her those reps. And like, that's where we're at. She back squatted 105 for 5. Like, and we could probably just keep doing that. Taman, questions here? I think in this case, and maybe Weeks can write this down, is like I should put in here mainly foundational movements, some advanced. Mainly advanced and foundational, some peak. Mainly peak and advanced.
What levels get this?
3 and 4. So like you guys, I'm thinking about, like this is essentially like a representation of you guys. And this might be, this transition period for you guys could be, let's say February, or if we think about with the discus throwers, it could be May into June. So we want to hit a good period here when we go to Oklahoma, and then we hit a transition period for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then we come back to the athletic period. But right now, you're in the prep period. You indoor, I don't think you should ever even get into this. I think even indoors, you should stay in here. For you guys specifically. So the big one here with the degree, the key to the exercise degrees is to know the exercise umbrellas, know the exercise degrees, know the assessment level of the athlete and what exercises are unlocked from each assessment level, know the time frame or period of development of the athlete relative to their competitive season. So that's sort of the chart that we just went over. So what I want to do next was take, let's just do like two thought experiments, foundational technical coordination movements, and list 10 of them. Or actually, it wouldn't even be 10 probably. In Weeks, I might have you write these down. So foundational technical coordination exercises. Give me level. It's just foundational, so the level determines what they're using, determines that they're going to be in foundational. So foundational technical coordination exercise. Clean.
Maybe.
Snatch. If they are capable of snatching. I would say like a power jerk, if we're doing that. Most cases not. A behind the neck jerk or a jerk. And I would probably put in there power clean and power snatch, because I think that is a point of the progressions we use to educate the athlete on that. But I wouldn't go past that.
Foundational movement, technical coordination.
Yep.
You're telling me that doesn't have a matter with the level itself. Like level 2 foundational movement, technical coordination is not different from level 1. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying foundational movements for technical coordination are going to be the same no matter what. Yes.
Across levels.
The level determines, so if you're a level 3, you would still select from a foundational exercise.
You just advance
Your pool of selection is bigger.
Yeah, so like, okay, so let's do this drill. Like, if you have Drake comes in, he's only gonna power clean, power snatch, full clean, full snatch, behind the neck jerk, jerk, power jerk.
Okay.
Then his back squat, or his foundational absolute strength selections would be a back squat, a front squat, a single leg squat, a bench press, an incline bench, a pull-up, a neutral grip pull-up, a chin-up,
Okay.
a dip.
I get that. Where does the level come into play then?
So if Drake, let's say Drake comes in and all of a sudden he cleans 110 or 100 kilos, he's at level 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so like let's say he's a level 2.
So
Let's
now he can do like one box.
one box. I do think there's a gray area with the one box. Let's say he would do like a low hang clean.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where that would come into play. So
So just from the basic, you're saying basic level, well, not even level, but just the foundational technical coordination is clean, snatch, back squat. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then based off sport that besides level, and that will open up the
Extra movements.
extra. Okay.
Yeah.
I get that now.
Okay.
Unlocking the variations.
Yeah. Think about it that way. You're unlocking.
Levels unlock the variation.
Yes. And so if we're looking at a foundational strength movements, I genuinely think for pulls, it would be pull up, neutral grip pull up, chin up. Okay? For presses, it'd be incline, flat, dips, maybe decline, but probably not. But we probably still have the case to do it. Back squat, front squat, single leg squat. Then hypertrophy or accessories, we might throw in there like a goblet squat, push-ups, a husky kid doing lat pull downs. Those would be like the foundationals there. And then, you're looking at like speed stuff. They might just be doing A skips, B skips, basic start, like positional work coming out of starts, 20s and 60s, something like that. Plyometrics would be like, they're going through the 5 freaking S series. They're doing box jumps. They're doing pogo hops. They're doing, like, jump lunges are pretty freaking foundational and easy. Jump step ups, and that's basically it. Bounds a little bit, as long as they don't plop like crazy. DTC work, it might be like, yo, pull this band apart and do a single leg squat while you pull the band apart. That's it. Like that's really hard for kids that are 7th grade, 8th grade. Yeah. And for old people too. Okay, now let's go advanced technical coordination.
Low hang,
Advanced.
Yeah, low hang power clean, low hang clean, one box
Split.
clean,
split jerk.
split jerk, yeah, push press, split jerk.
What's a PA press?
A PA press to me would be that would be this level of presses.
Every upper body day, every.
The only thing I'll say though,
presses.
I will say is like seeing the kids doing those, like, and I've seen the progression of them, like, dude, those kids have gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Like they have, like, dude, so I'll be full, like, totally honest. There was times I was
Turn that volume up. He's about to say some nice shit real quick.
that, like, I'd be walking through and thinking that these kids would fall backwards and the bar would just decapitate them. But that would even be an argument for a DTC movement, is like, and this is where people don't think about like a Z press. And we've done videos where we've talked about Z presses when you fall over. When you do Z presses or PA press and you learn how to hold that position locked out without falling too much or not falling at all, dude, that's a huge growth for an athlete. And I bet you'd even see them improve like their 5-10-5, because now they're actually learning how to squeeze like their glutes, their hips, and their trunk. I do believe that. So I'll give you that PA press, and maybe we could make an argument for that being more foundational because it's advanced, or because it's an awakening. I wouldn't do it right away, but I would even say like a low hang power snatch, a muscle snatch, stuff like that. And the other thing that I'm thinking that would be advanced to technical coordination, the other thing I believe here is like as they advance with their levels, then we would bring in, that's when the rep schemes start to get crazier, and then that's when we start to use those other tactics, but only until we get to those next points. Give me advanced, theoretically advanced absolute strength movements. I've got something ridiculous, like a banded dumbbell bench. I actually think can be in there. And I know it sounds stupid, but that's a hard movement. We would still have dips, you'd still have benches, you'd still have incline bench. You might throw in some variation like a close grip incline bench or something.
Neutral grip bar bench.
Yeah, neutral grip bar, like the football bar. Stuff like that is where you can get more advanced.
Single leg front squat.
Yeah, single leg front squat for sure. Weighted pull-ups, stuff. Now they're getting out of that level 1, they're into level 2, and they're advancing with that progress. So it's more loaded. Rope climbs. Our ropes aren't set up right now.
They're set up.
Yeah?
They're just attached around a band around the post.
I don't even.
They get away too much.
Yeah. Okay, I want to stop there because I wanted to go over this and recover it. Now I want to build out, for me, it's like creating the graphic that these are the exercises that we use for each exercise umbrella. And then next week, we are going to get into, and maybe you guys can, so next week we can go into training splits, more reps and sets that are more in depth with levels, or more aspects around periodization. Any choice, Taman?
Wait, what'd you say?
Periodization, more advanced rep set stuff, or just going over splits.
Periodization sounds pretty good.
Okay, so we can go back to periodization. We're going to go super in depth with periodization, and then we'll slowly build into the splits. Because this is, dude, I've got the outline right now, like 15 plus pages of the book. So, okay, good job. Legend can close it out.